This video series will discuss the last chapter of my book, which again is Hunting, Gathering, and Video Games. And this chapter looks at some of the often unquestioned assumptions we have when it comes to how the pursuit of happiness ties in with work and wealth and how we define the word success. There was a popular book back in the 1970s called Working, and its subtitle was People Talk About What They Do All Day and How They Feel About What They Do. And in the introduction, the author, Studs Terkel, writes, "Work is a search for daily meaning as well as daily bread, for recognition as well as cash." And Terkel also writes that our workday often includes violence to the spirit as well as violence to the body. And this violence to the spirit is what happens when our expectations of finding meaning and recognition go unmet. Now, whether we even should be looking to our paid employment, that is our jobs, as our source for daily meaning and recognition, and even our own identities, is something that's often not even questioned, at least here in America. The notion that our occupation equals our identity is something that's just built into our very language. We don't say things like, "I do graphic designing for a living." We say, "I am a graphic designer." Now, before I go into my reasons for why I feel this occupation equals identity mindset is not a reliable guideline for having a happy and fulfilling life, I am going to say a few words in defense of this mindset. Maybe it's not actually a defense, but it is. I do want to acknowledge that there are circumstances in which this approach can lead to a happy life. Now, just like most of the other video series on this channel, I'm going to take a step back and look at the situation historically. And note that today's workday does give us a wide variety of ways to feel, that is, to achieve fulfillment. Now, when we look at the great majority of human history, we've been hunter-gatherers, where our work options were limited to one and only one, that is, doing the necessary physical labor for survival, hunting and gathering our food, creating some type of food, clothing and shelter. Once we get to the agricultural era, 8000 BC or so, lots of specialized fields opened up, but people's choice of occupation was often just limited to whatever was available in the local community and also restricted to inheriting your parents' occupation. And there were arguably some advantages to that lifestyle, at least in terms of family bonding, but not in terms of a diverse choice of career options. Now, once we get to the era of the Industrial Revolution, then lots more options opened up. When it came to what kind of labor you wanted to choose to keep yourself alive, and the number of options continue to increase. So in today's world, we can earn our food and clothing and shelter in artistic areas like music or dancing or art or theater, by creating our own businesses, excelling as athletes, intellectual pursuits like research or writing, education, medical care, etc. And that is a huge change from how humans have lived throughout most of our history. Now, when it comes to choosing our means of survival, one practical factor to consider is that our jobs do take up 40 hours or so of our week. So it does make sense that because we have lots of career options and because our jobs take up a considerable part of our lives, that we strive to find a job that we find rewarding or at least enjoyable in some way. But a significant border or limitation around our career decision is that our jobs have to be able to provide a good or service that other people are willing to trade with. Or to use more modern terms, we have to be participating in a good or service that other people are willing to pay for. Now, for some people, that's not an obstacle, maybe especially those who have their dreams set on being professional artists or athletes or business tycoons or politicians or whatever. And they have that right combination of being talented and marketable and persistent and maybe whatever luck is necessary, and they find that they can support themselves financially. So for some people, there's nothing wrong with equating your identity with your occupation, and it is certainly a very time-efficient way to get to do what you love 40 hours a week. Or in the case of those who feel very passionately about their careers, maybe it's 80 hours or so a week. On the other hand, then there's the rest of us. As something of an extreme example, let's look at Vincent van Gogh. Now, from what I know from a book of his personal letters, he surely felt that being an artist was his identity. But Van Gogh's attempts at combining his art with his livelihood ended in disaster. Almost nobody was interested in buying his paintings during his lifetime. And his financial failings, it was just a big part of why he ended up shooting himself, killing himself when he was only 37. Now, looking at a much less extreme example, I know one artist who was supporting himself with his paintings, but he felt that the market was so cutthroat, and he had to go through so much phony schmoozing and ass-kissing, and he had to tailor his artwork so much to what would sell. He felt like the real joy of creating art was lost, and that overall he was much happier when painting was a hobby that was not tied to his income. All right, there are lots more examples in areas other than art, but I won't go into any more of those because my only point so far is that this idea that our very identity must be tied to our paid employment rests on the premises, three premises. One, that we all have some special gift or purpose in life that we can define ourselves by. Second, that we know exactly what that special gift is. And third, that this gift not only has a place in the competitive market, but a firm enough place to earn enough money to support ourselves financially. And for many of us, not all three premises apply. All right, to be continued in part 2.